get to the football game and hear what Tom Manning, Atlantic's play-by-play announcer, has to say about the starting lineup. All right, Tom, come on in.
Good afternoon, everybody. What a ball game is in store for us this afternoon. First, the WTAM microphone has to move into our regular broadcasting booth high above the playing field. We're on the western rim of the Ohio Horseshoe. We've been here for a great many Ohio State ball games during the past 14 years. We had the pleasure of broadcasting the Ohio State game against Notre Dame, and they had their capacity crowd, and several great crowds against the University of Michigan. From our office perch here in Columbus, we can see the downtown building. You know, it's just 3 miles from downtown Columbus to the campus of Ohio State. We can see the long lines of humanity. They're all filing in here rather slow today. They're taking every available minute before getting into their seats. You know, the advantage this afternoon of a heavy field will be in favor of the Wolverines of Michigan. I believe that the field will be able to get heavy as the ball game moves along. Newspaper writers, photographers occupy every available space allotted for their work. Movie cameras are perched on a specially built porch that overhangs the western rim of the Ohio Stadium. Coaches Paul Brown and Fritz Chrysler are giving their charges final instructions. The cheerleaders and student body of Ohio State are located on our side of the field. That's the west side. Of course, the student body and rooters for the Wolverines are on the east side of the stadium. The field is in excellent condition at the moment. However, the huge canvas has just been removed. We're all sitting there now waiting for the Ohio State 120-piece marching band to come from beneath the north stand. We've seen a capacity crowd of 76,000, one of the largest crowds in the history of Ohio State Stadium will be in attendance this afternoon. We see now that the Ohio State band is forming over there between the two exits in the northern end of the field. In just a moment, Gerald R. Johnson, the drum major, will come out and salute the great throng of football enthusiasts here. And the Ohio State band, under the baton of Manly R. Whitcomb, will come marching down the field. The band has a great show in store for us this afternoon. The band hasn't appeared yet, and I think this is very interesting to you. You know, many of the home folks undoubtedly will be in the stands here this afternoon, watching some of the Ohio boys on the Michigan roster. Bob Polisar, Phil Sharp, Bob Scapius. They're all on the Michigan team. They're Ohio boys. Polisar is from Cleveland, Sharp from Lakewood, and Scapius from Toledo. All right, here comes the Ohio State band now. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest bands on the college gridiron of the year is the Ohio State 120-piece marching band. And the great drums have come out, and Gerald Johnson has just given his salute. The band hasn't started to play yet, but just as soon as they do, your neighborhood Atlantic dealer wants you to hear every single note of that great Ohio State band. The Michigan band, unfortunately, will not be with us this afternoon. And here they come with their great blue overcoats, with their white brown belts, and their red and white caps. And our cheer goes up as about 20 cheerleaders dressed in white duck pants, the white jerseys, and the scarlet band and the scarlet hose. They're running down there with their 4 microphones. They are the 4 senior cheerleaders, and they're running down now to meet the Ohio State band. When the band comes on the field this afternoon, Drum Major Gerald Johnson, after he makes his salute, you'll hear the band playing the Buckeye Battle Cry. They'll halt at the goal line for the flag-raising ceremony. The band will then play the Star Spangled Banner on the baton of Manly R. Whitcomb. It was 2-5 when they started to take the canvas off the gridiron. They finished it just a moment ago. The first appearance of the football players this afternoon happened at 2:10 when Coach Fritz Chrysler of Michigan led his ball players out on the field. They warmed up for about 5 or 6 minutes. Now they've gone back to their dressing room. And of course, as usual, the Ohio State Buckeyes will not come on the field until about 10 minutes before game time. Paul Brown never takes his team back to the dressing room after they make their initial appearance. Now the speed has been given. The Ohio State band has formed a great block down there under the north goal post, and it won't be long until we'll be hearing that battle cry. On the program of the pregame ceremony, there they are, the Ohio State band. for you Ohio State enthusiasts. Gerald Johnson, the drum major, had just tossed that bat down over the south goal post. He tossed it very high this afternoon, and as it came down, he caught it. Where the bandstands are now underneath the south goal post, and at the moment, the cheerleaders are all standing about 5 yards apart. The band carries on, Manly out Whitcomb, is now mounting the rostrum. Ladies and gentlemen, as we play our national anthem, let us think of the thousands and thousands of our neighborhood boys who are fighting for you and me. War bonds and war stamps will bring them home quickly. The national anthem. Gentlemen, Old Glory is unfurled at the south end of the field. And I want to say that Old Glory was never unfurled before a more enthusiastic or loving crowd than are assembled here at the Ohio Stadium. Here come the Buckeyes out on the field now, and a great cheer goes up. Listen to that cheerful one. And as usual, Paul Brown sends his second and third team out on the field. They run across the south goal line, and now they're running down the field in their warm-up exercises. The officials are down on the field. The referee for this important ball game this afternoon will be Frank Birch of Earlham. The umpire, E.C. Irish Krieger of Ohio U. The field judge, R.A. Bonham of Wisconsin, and the head linesman will be Perry Graves of Illinois. And now in just a few moments, we'll be ready to give you the starting lineup. As we mentioned a moment ago, the first team on the field this afternoon, the University of Michigan. All right, the first team comes out. Let's pick up that cheer before they get here. Here they come. Yes, friends, today, the capital of Ohio becomes the capital of the football world. For the game between Ohio State and Michigan far overshadows comparable engagements. Some may consider Minnesota and Wisconsin. Others, Georgia against Auburn. Notre Dame at Northwestern. Army against Princeton. Yes, they're all important. But out here in the Central State section, where any game between Michigan and Ohio State is about top, the setup this year is almost perfect. It isn't perfect because Michigan was outscored by Minnesota, and the Bucks dropped one to Wisconsin. But after a weekend in which the Wolverines gave a good Notre team a licking, State rolled over Illinois, number one surprise team of the Big Ten, the game comes up as a natural. So, for two good reasons, this is the number one game of the nation. First, the student body and the alumni of each school would rather win this one game than any other on their schedule. And second, because the Big Ten championship hangs in the outfield. And now all of the Ohio State ball players are down there on the field. We'll be ready to give you that lineup in just a few moments. You know, friends, a few moments ago, I mentioned the complete winter conditioning job that many Atlantic dealers are now offering at a special price. This winter special is designed to help your car come through the crucial months ahead in good shape. Now, it includes Atlantic's approved lubrication service, the kind that helps prove cars could run 100,000 miles and still be in excellent condition. It includes many other things, too. Winter-grade lubricants for the transmission and differential, flushing the radiator, checking the hose and connectors, cleaning and re-oiling the air filter, checking and inspecting the battery, inspecting the heater, checking the tires, and draining and refilling the crankcase with winter-grade Atlantic motor oil. Now, when these things are done, your car will be ready for freezing weather. This year, more than ever, protect your car in every way you can. Get that Atlantic Winter Special early. And remember, folks, your Atlantic dealer is also ready to supply you with antifreeze, sleep masters, and chains. I like to mention every Saturday neighborhood Atlantic dealer, the sponsor of this Ohio State-Michigan game, and all of the other Atlantic broadcasts, does not permit any of its announcers to interrupt the play-by-play or to tie in our product with any play on the field. And ladies and gentlemen, a little later on this afternoon, the WTAM engineers and your Atlantic neighborhood dealer has made elaborate preparations to bring you all of these scores of the important ball games from coast to coast. Down there on the field now, we noticed that Rosemary Hickey, she was elected the homecoming queen. It is homecoming day here at Columbus. Comes out on the field, and as she does annually, goes over and kisses the captain of Ohio State. The cheer that just went up is for the maize and blue of Michigan. I think now it's about time that we give you the Michigan lineup, so here it is, as we believe it will be at starting time. The referee has called the two captains out on the field, Captain Lynn and the Captain George Cyhamel, both quarterbacks, both signal callers, two smart men, respected by every boy on the team as well as the faculty and coaching staff of Ohio State and Michigan. They sit out there in the center of the field, they're shaking hands. All right, the Michigan lineup. The coin is in the air. Ohio State wins the toss. All right, the Michigan lineup. At left end will be Phil Sharp, S-H-A-R-P-E. He weighs 185, stands 6'2". He's the Lakewood, Ohio boy. At left tackle, Al Wister, W-I-S-T-E-R-T. He comes from Chicago. He's 6'2", and he weighs 205. At left guard, another Cleveland boy, Bob Colasar. Bob is 5'10", weighs 193. At center is Michigan's potential All-American, Merv Klegelman. P-R-E-G-U-L-M-A-N. He's 6'3", weighs 207 pounds. On the right side of the line is Julius Frank, 187, 6 feet tall. At right tackle, Bill Petula from Detroit, 195, 6 feet tall. And at right end, Elmer Madar. He comes from Detroit, he's 5'10", weighs 170. In the Michigan backfield, calling signals at quarterback will be George Cyhamel. George is a senior out there, captain of the Wolverines. He's 184, 6 feet tall. Bob Weesey at fullback, Kuzma at left half, and Paul White at right half. And for Ohio State, at left end will be Don Steinberg. Left tackle, Bill Willis. Left guard, Dean. At center, Vic Roy. On the right side of the Ohio State line, Lynn Houston, a potential All-American at right guard. At right tackle, Charlie Surrey, who played that great ball game up at Cleveland. And at right end, it will be Bob Shaw. In the Ohio State backfield, George Lynn at quarterback, Gene Feckerty, fullback, and at the hands will be Les Horvath and Paul Staringhouse. Ohio State has elected to receive. They will defend the North Pole. This afternoon they are wearing their gold pants instead of that conventional Red Devil uniform. However, they have their red headgears, red jerseys, big white movements. Michigan wearing their maize and blue, maize pants, maize and blue headgears, and the dark blue sweater with the maize movement. All right, the referee this afternoon, as we told you, is Frank Burt. He has come over now to this side of the field, and in just a moment we'll have that kickoff. And kicking off for Michigan. Rather, Ohio State kicking off, and Surrey will kick off for Ohio State. The ball in the air, and as the ball goes out of bounds over on about the 38-yard line. Ohio State went into a receiving formation, and then just before the kickoff, Ohio State kicks off, and Surrey kicking out of bounds on the 38-yard line. So it's Michigan's ball, 1st and 10, and the referee is bringing in and placing it 15 yards from the far side of the field.